business in a borderless world. Let's talk about the role of international business. International business refers to the buying, selling, and trading of goods and services across national boundaries. Examples of international business such as Starbucks serves millions of global customers at more than 19,000 locations in 62 countries. The Apple Store surpassed $10 billion in app sales alone in 2013. A total of $1 billion came into the company over a one-month period shortly after Apple released a new operating system. To begin our study of international business, we must first consider some economic issues. Why nations trade. Some nations have a monopoly on the production of a particular resource or product, such as absolute advantage exists when a country is the only source of an item, the only producer of an item, or the most efficient producer of an item. For example, Mexico held an absolute advantage in oil production because the country was not able to produce as much crude oil as its capacity allowed. President Peña Nieto nullified the monopoly, so other companies can enter the country and make use of Mexico's resources. Most international trade is based on comparative advantage, which occurs when a country specializes in products that it can supply more efficiently, or at a lower cost than it can produce other items. For example, Kenya has a comparative advantage in its use of mobile money, which involves payment services through mobile devices. India and Ireland are also gaining a comparative advantage over the United States in the provision of some services, such as call center operations, engineering, and software programming. Companies are increasingly outsourcing or transferring manufacturing and other tasks to countries where labor and supplies are less expensive. For example, the Philippines has surpassed India as the popular choice for call center jobs. Trade between countries. To obtain needed goods and services and the funds to pay for them, nations trade by. Exporting is the sale of goods and services to foreign markets. For example, Apple designed a less expensive version of the iPhone for the Chinese smartphone market, while also utilizing Chinese resources for manufacturing. Importing is the purchase of goods and services from foreign sources. Balance of trade is the difference in value between its exports and imports. Trade deficit is a nation's negative balance of trade, which exists when a country imports more products than it exports. Balance of payments is the difference between the flow of money into and out of a country. Now let's talk about international trade barriers. When looking at doing business in another country, managers must consider a number of basic economic factors, such as economic barriers. Infrastructure is the physical facilities that support its economic activities, such as schools, hospitals, communication systems, highways, etc. Exchange rates is the ratio at which one nation's currency can be exchanged for another nation's currency. Legal and political barriers. When entering the international marketplace, companies must contend with potentially complex relationships. Different laws of its own nation, international laws and the laws of the nation with which it's trading. There are some various trade restrictions, changing political climates, different ethical values. Laws and regulations is a firm doing business abroad must understand and obey the laws of the host country. For example, in Mexico, foreigners cannot directly own property in what is known as the restrictive zone. Includes land within 100 kilometers of Mexico's international borders, along with land within 50 kilometers of Mexico's oceans and beaches. Import tariff is a tax levied by a nation on goods imported into the country. Fixed tariff is a specific amount of money levied on each unit of a product brought into the country, while an ad valorem tariff is based on the value of the item. Exchange controls restrict the amount of currency that can be bought or sold. Tariffs and trade restrictions. Quota is a restriction on the number of units of a particular product that can be imported into a country. Embargo prohibits trade in a particular product. Embargoes are generally directed at specific goods or countries and may be established for political, economic, health, or religious reasons. Dumping is the act of a country or business selling products at less than what it costs to produce them. Political barriers considerations affect international business daily, such as seldom in writing and change rapidly, and may create a hostile or even dangerous environment for foreign business. Political concerns may lead a group of nations to form a cartel, a group of firms or nations that agrees to act as a monopoly and not compete with each other to generate a competitive advantage in world markets. Social and cultural barriers. Research can help minimize the problems associated with social and cultural differences. For example, Burger King recently formed a joint venture with Everstone Group to begin opening locations in India. The fast food chain can take lessons from already established competitors that learned the necessity of adapting their menus to reflect the religious and social customs of the region. Tiffany & Co. learned that more attentive customer service was necessary in order to succeed in Japan, and bold marketing and advertising served as the recipe for success in China. Technological barriers. Technological advances are creating global marketing opportunities and create new challenges and competition. Changing technologies. For examples, out of the top 5 PC companies, 3 are from countries in Asia. iPad and other tablet computer makers beginning to erode the market share of traditional personal computers. Let's talk about trade agreements, alliances, and organizations. General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Originally signed by 23 nations in 1947, provided a forum for tariff negotiations and a place where international trade problems could be discussed and resolved. World Trade Organization. An international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations, was created in 1995 by the Uruguay Round. Key to the World Trade Organization are the WTO agreements, which are the legal ground rules for international commerce. The North American Free Trade Agreement, which went into effect on January 1, 1994, effectively merged Canada, the United States, and Mexico into one market of nearly 470 million consumers. The European Union, also called the European Community or Common Market, a union of European nations established in 1958 to promote trade among its members, one of the largest single markets today. Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, established in 1989, an international trade alliance that promotes open trade and economic and technical cooperation among member nations. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, established in 1967, a trade alliance that promotes trade and economic integration among member nations in Southeast Asia. The World Bank, more formally known as the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, an organization established by the industrialized nations of 1946 to loan money to underdeveloped and developing countries. The International Monetary Fund was an organization established in 1947 to promote trade among member nations by eliminating trade barriers and fostering financial cooperation. Next, let's talk about getting involved in international business. Trading company is a firm that buys goods in one country and sells them to buyers in another country. For example, the best-known U.S. trading company is Sears World Trade, which specializes in consumer goods, light industrial items, and processed foods. Licensing is a trade arrangement in which one company, the licensor, allows another company, the licensee, to use its company name, products, patents, brands, trademarks, raw materials, and/or production processes in exchange for a fee or royalty. Coca-Cola Company and PepsiCo frequently use licensing as a means to market their soft drinks, apparel, and other merchandise in other countries. Franchising is a form of licensing in which a company, the franchisor, agrees to provide the franchisee the name, logo, methods of operation, advertising, products, and other elements associated with the franchisor's business, in return for a financial commitment and the agreement to conduct business in accordance with the franchisor's standard of operation. Wendy's, McDonald's, Handler-Block, and Holiday Inn are well-known franchisors with international visibility. Contract manufacturing occurs when a company hires a foreign company to produce a specified volume of the firm's product to specification, and the final product carries the domestic firm's name. For example, Reebok uses Korean contract manufacturers to manufacture many of its athletic shoes. Outsourcing, as defined earlier, is transferring tasks to other countries where costs are lower. Offshoring is the relocation of business processes by a company or subsidiary to another country. Joint venture is the sharing of the costs and operation of a business between a foreign company and a local partner. Strategic alliance is a partnership formed to create competitive advantage on a worldwide basis. Direct investment is the ownership of overseas facilities. Multinational corporation is a corporation that operates on a worldwide scale without significant ties to any one nation or region. International business strategies. Multinational strategy is a plan used by international companies that involves customizing products, promotion, and distribution according to cultural, technological, regional, and national differences. Global strategy is a strategy that involves standardizing products and, as much as possible, their promotion and distribution for the whole world, as if it were a single entity.